Name the time signature. So there's 5 examples here, and the whole point is to kind of break them apart and figure out what time signature will fit for it. And more than one time signature might fit for these, for some of them, and maybe just one, only one, might fit for some of them as well. So let's go over the first one, okay? So I see eighth notes, I see quarter notes, so let's think eighth notes. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eighth notes right there. Okay, I have 8, 8 time. Well, I've never seen that before. What happens if I double that? I'd have 16, 16. I don't really see that a lot either. Well, what if I think 4? So let's think quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, well that's common time. It's called common time because this is the most common time used in Western music. What happens if we cut it in half even one more time? Because a sort of good thing to do here is to try to reduce it, cut it down as much as possible, and see what will fit. So we do 2, 2, so we have half notes. So it can really help to actually write out the beat that you would count. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So we're going to make half notes. So we need to use the 1 and the 2, 1 and the 2 and. So we need to use also the 3 and the 4 and. So this group becomes one half note. This group becomes the other half note. Okay, because remember the and is just in the middle of the beat. So this is 1 beat, 2 beats, that's a half note. 3 beats, 4 beats, that's a half note. So for this one, 4, 4, and 2, 2 are both reasonable answers. While 8, 8, and 16, 16 are not really things that we really use very much, so probably not the best answer. Okay, well, this next one might look a little crazy, but it's actually really simple. So let's break it down. So if we want to think in the last one, we started with eighth notes, and then we ended up on quarter notes, but it was actually a very smooth transition. So instead of starting on quarter notes, because if I start on a smaller number than what it actually is, then I will end up with half beats, or maybe at worst quarter beats or eighth beats, who knows, but I won't actually land on the beat. If you're catching what I'm saying, don't worry if not. So instead of overcomplicating this, let's just start with an eighth note again, because I see eighth notes here mostly, so let's just start with that. The other thing to keep in mind, which can be intimidating, is you see a dotted note and then you see a half note right here, okay, only on one of them. So if you really think about it, this would just be 1.5 of these notes, and this would just be a half of this note. So it would basically cancel itself out, and if you just kind of remove both of these and look at it like that, that's 1, 2, 3. You see, it cancels itself out mathematically. Not rhythmically, though. Okay, so right here, you have your 1.5 plus a half equals 2. And then you have just your other beat, so it's 1, 2, 3. And then here, it's very similar. Well, we're just going to do 1. This is going to turn into another just 1 beat. And then this will turn into our third. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 plus 3, 6. Okay, so if you remember, 6, 8 time has this pulse. If you saw my time signature video. So because it has this pulse, which is 3/8 notes and 3/8 notes, but it's 1 pulse of each, and there's 2 pulses total, we have the same thing right here, because that would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, separated. So we are indeed looking at 6, 8. Okay, now let's look at the next one. A dotted half note, okay, and then eighth notes. So let's try eighth notes first. So splitting this into eighth notes, well, let's first split it into quarter notes. Okay, so for now, just ignore that arrow. But basically, you have your dotted half note. That's going to equal 3 quarter notes. So let's turn that into eighth notes. So the equivalent to that dotted half note is 6/8 notes plus another 4/8 notes. Okay, so 10/8. I've never seen 10/8 before. That actually looks a little odd to me. Okay, so let's think about it in quarter notes in 4. Well, I think you could math that out and half that. But the whole point of this video is to actually understand it, so I'm going to show you. So we're going to think about this as quarter notes. So dotted half note. Okay, well that's 3 quarter notes. And then we have 4/8 notes, so that would be 2 quarter notes. So as we see, we have 1, 2, 3 little eighth notes here, and then we have 1, 2, and they're separated. So we have 3 and 2, and that's kind of the rhythm. Huh, that rings a bell. That's 5/4. Because the actual pulse of 5/4 is a dotted half note, a half note. And that's the exact amount of duration that we have right there. Now we're moving on to the next one. And this one has the arrow next to it. Nonetheless, I see 12/8 notes. We're looking at 12/8. Okay, so now if you look at 12/8, that is a compound quadruple. So that does not work. Because if you have a compound quadruple, your pulse would be 3/8 notes and a group of 4 of those. 3, 3, 3, 3. We don't have that here. The beaming does not allow it. Mathematically, 12/8 could work, but beaming rhythmically does not work. It is not the choice. It is not the answer. Okay, so we think if we double it, we have 24/16. I do not think that's really going to be something people are going to use. It sounds kind of crazy to me. We half it. We got 6/4, which is a compound duple. Okay, so if we look at 6/4 in the context of a compound duple, we're going to have 6 quarter notes, which are going to have a pulse of this, which is basically just saying it's this then that. It's not a measure, it's just showing you that the pulse is divided like that. Okay? So we got a problem. That's split up into 3 different sections, not 2. That does not work. Furthermore, here is the actual 6/4 time written out in eighth notes. And as you can see, it looks a little different. Okay, so I started on 8, and then I thought, no, so I thought maybe 16, that was no. I just did 6/4, that didn't work, so the only thing I can do now is half it again. So now I'm dealing with half notes. Something feels a little wrong here. I have eighth notes here. Okay, so as you know, it's a half note, so it's going to have those 2 beats. So let's split this up into the beats and let's get 2 of each. So we have 1 beat there, 2 beat there, there's 1 half note. 3 beats, 4 beats, that's another 2. Okay, so we have 2 half notes so far. And then we have another 1, 2 beats, so we have 3 half notes. Because we need 2 beats to create 1 half note. 2 is a simple triple time signature, meaning that the triple, you have 3 beats, and simple, each of these beats can be split into 2. And just a quick example for the first one, and they're all the same, so obviously it goes to the other ones. If we split this, we get 2 quarter notes. And remember, 2, 3, and 4 are simple, and then 6, 9, and 12 are your compound. So when we're looking at compound, we have 3 beats in one of these pulses. Okay? So we did 3 different options and only one of them worked. So sometimes there's only one option, although it kind of seems like it might be more than one. Okay, so now the last one. Okay, so the one before this, I went 8, and it kind of turned out like a mess, but when I started on 8 on all the other ones, it worked out pretty well. Well, let's just do it again. Okay, so if we write that out kind of like we'd counting it, 16th notes we count 1 E and A. Okay, so we have our 1, and this is the 32nd note, so I guess if we just add those two together, we have our E, so we have our 1 E and. Well, that doesn't even create a single beat. That just created 3/4 of a beat. Okay, well, scratch that. Let's think 16th notes. 1, that would equal 2, 3. So 3 16th notes. And well, 3/16 is a simple triple time, so that works. So here is a final result of all the answers. And don't worry if that was kind of confusing. It's always good to let these things sink in, maybe walk away from it for a week or two or some and come back to it. You definitely don't need to master this to become a really good musician. Probably more to answer test questions. This will actually help you, though, understand the time signatures really well. It helped me. But the thing is, you might not even use a lot of these time signatures. I mean, heck, you might only use, if you're making music, you might only want 4/4. Because I found oftentimes I think of melodies in my head and rhythms and all stuff all the time. And normally when you actually start counting what's going on, it's like, wow, I'm thinking most of my songs are in 4/4 that I think of, or I think a cool motif or something, and it always turns out basically it's in 4/4 common time. So this is fun. It's kind of like a brain exercise, and I would look at it more like that versus something you need to know to become a good musician, because I definitely think this is not something you need to know to become a good musician, but to know maybe music front and back, yeah, you know, it sure helps if you want to create some crazy sounding music, because it definitely won't have a regular time signature if you want to create something very different. Like if you want to use like 5/4 or something like that, because you have your 3 beats, then your 2 beats, or vice versa. So that right there kind of creates something interesting. The original Mission Impossible theme is 5/4. So that's a good example. Might want to give that a listen and kind of see the interesting rhythm of 5/4.